Welcome to the Pharmacist Voice Podcast, episode 229. I'm the host, Kim Newlove. Joining me today is Pam Schweitzer, PharmD, and her daughter, Amy Graves. They'll be talking about their children's book, Alice and Jack Hike the Grand Canyon. If you've been following along, this is episode 9 of 15 in my Pharmacist Authors Summer Series. If you haven't been following the series, it's no problem. You'll still enjoy this episode, but feel free to listen to the other episodes in this series after you finish this one. They're all great. Pam and Amy are a mother-daughter author team who come from a long line of Grand Canyon hikers. Pam was my guest on episode 185 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast for Veterans Day in 2022. She's a former Assistant Surgeon General of the United States and Rear Admiral in the Commissioned Corps of the United States Public Health Service. Pam grew up hiking with her parents and siblings on many of the Grand Canyon trails, and she and her husband Paul have organized several Grand Canyon hikes for family and friends. Amy lives in Arizona with her husband and children. She's a graduate of Bowdoin College, where she studied child psychology and minored in education. Amy's first trip to the Grand Canyon was when she was 3 years old. Amy has positive memories of hiking as a child and has now taken her own children to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. You'll hear more about that during our interview. This is a fun interview, and I'm thinking it will make you want to hike the Grand Canyon with your kids or grandkids too. If you're new to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, welcome. Again, I'm Kim Newlove, the host. I'm a pharmacist by training, but I'm not in clinical practice anymore. I am a voice actor and a podcast host. I graduated from the University of Toledo College of Pharmacy with my BS Pharm in 2001. Among other things, I narrate audiobooks for pharmacists. If you have a project in mind, whether it's an audiobook, a medical narration project, or something podcast related, contact me through my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Dr. Pam Schweitzer and her daughter, Amy Graves. Hi, Pam and Amy. Welcome to the Pharmacist Voice podcast. How are you?
We're so excited to be on. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, we're very happy to be here.
You're welcome. This is exciting. I have a mother-daughter duo on the show today for the Pharmacist Authors Series. This is awesome.
Woohoo!
All right. Well, Pam, welcome back. And Amy, this is your first time on the podcast. You are not a pharmacist, but you're welcome to be here. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. It's been neat. I have been able to be blessed by having all these pharmacists around me my whole life and being able to watch my mom, and so many of our family friends are all pharmacists. So I have a deep, deep love for them.
Excellent. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Now, the book that you two have written together is not about pharmacy stuff, and it's not aimed towards people who are studying pharmacy or enjoying pharmacy in their lives. And this is kind of different. So I'm excited to have somebody who's not talking about pharmacy that is a pharmacist author and bringing her daughter into this. At this time, I want to ask, what is the name of your book and what is it about?
The name of the book is Alice and Jack Hike the Grand Canyon. And what it's about a family, and the main character is a little girl. Her name is Alice, and the story's being told from her view, and it's about just loving family adventures, wanting to go on this hike to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and the parents kind of guiding them and getting them ready and preparing for this hike that's pretty big. Only less than 1% of the people go to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. So, it talks about the preparation and things you need, all the equipment you need. And there's a lot of little fun, little quirky things. And she has a little brother that, they're like siblings are, and having to overcome a few obstacles along the way. And it's basically their adventure to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and experiencing that with their family and just coming out feeling very accomplished.
Thanks, Pam. And Amy, do you have anything to add to that?
So a big reason that we chose to do this book is because it's kind of like a letter to our kids of like our love for the Grand Canyon. So my mom, she hiked the Grand Canyon when she was a child with her family. And then they took myself and my brother down when we were 3 years old. And it's kind of become this amazing place for our family to always go. And so that was kind of the start of it, and we based a lot of it off of that. And then Alice and Jack, who are the main characters, are actually my two oldest kids. And so it was neat to weave in so much of what is important to us into this book.
And they actually had some input because as we were developing the story, we had decisions to make of which character was going to do what. And they actually provided input. So of what was important because they had been to the canyon too. So that was really cute. The story though is actually just basically we've gone down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon so many times, and we kind of weaved in lots of the different experiences. And it's one of the natural wonders of the world. I don't know if people know that. And every time you go down there, we've been down there so many times, and we never get tired of it. It's new every time. It's a wonderful experience, being able to be there. And our children, as Amy said, were able to do it. I did it when I was a kid. And then, of course, her kids have been able to experience this too.
When I read the description of this book on Amazon.com, it reminded me a little bit of what I call a social story. It's something that you read to a child to prepare them for a situation that's going to happen to them. Amy, with your background, can you tell me a little bit about if this was intentional to create a social story for young children who might also visit the Grand Canyon?
Yes, I would say 100% that is probably one of the main reasons we wrote this was to focus on preparation. And I have to give a shout out to my mom. She is the queen of preparation in everything we do. And my whole childhood, I feel like we spent just as much time preparing for anything before the actual event. And just a couple examples is even last week, my mom took my kids to a baseball game. And so a spring training game here in Arizona. So before she went to the game, she made a movie night and they watched The Sandlot, and she sat through and talked the little 3 and 5-year-old through every single little scene and walked them through. Then they went outside and they're practicing grounders and they're talking about the rules. And that was how she was for every event, every trip we went on. And so a big part of the Grand Canyon for us was preparing. So just this last trip we did when we went in December with all 3 kids is she worked for months having them prepare a talk. So my little 5-year-old did a talk on rattlesnakes. And my little 3-year-old, he wanted to do a talk on airplanes. So my mom, being so creative, researched airplanes in the Grand Canyon, and she found all this amazing information about how the Grand Canyon relates to a lot of the regulations of airplanes today. So it's been a neat way for us to learn and to let the kids get involved in so many different parts of the trip where they feel connected to it, they feel like it's part of them. And so I feel like our goal was that should show clearly in the book of how important preparation is and how much more exciting it makes a trip to know and feel like you're invested in it.
I can tell you when the kids were little, both my husband and I love the outdoors. And we wanted the kids to have the same love for it. But when they're little, they may not want to go on a big hike. So I remember we would make a big deal of going on a hike, and we probably went at the most a quarter of a mile, at the most. We would take a break every 100 feet, and we'd give them whatever their little favorite treat was. And then afterwards, we'd make such a big deal because they went on a big hike, but it was like only a quarter of a mile. But we would do that, but then we kept on getting longer and longer. And by the time the kids got to an age where they're pretty good hikers, which was about the age range of the book, they were amazing hikers, and very strong hikers. And look at Amy running a marathon and everything like that. I just am so impressed with them, and they have the same love, because that was and Amy, I will give credit to this, is having these great experiences and having this love for this passion for being outdoors is Amy gets it 1,000,000%. And it's really fun watching her with her kids do similar type things and just have these really positive experiences of being outdoors.
That's awesome. I love the relationship you two have. It's very supportive, I can tell. Amy, you grew up with this great mom, and this great mom is just praising you for, also bringing your own kids to the canyon. That's so cool.
I know, it's very neat. We, our little motto for this past Grand Canyon trip was optimism, positivity. So we went through there was a hailstorm at one point and lots of rain. It was super slushy. And the kids honestly did not complain one time going down. And we just kept on chanting optimism, positivity. And my mom has very much lived that example in our life of looking for the good in all the situations. And we tried to put that clear in our book as well. We always the parents are so proud of them, and we're so excited, and you're the best. And we hope that shines through.
Awesome.
And the other thing about optimism and positivity is that we knew we were prepared. We had planned for every type of weather. And I always think it's wonderful when we bring all our rain gear, we bring our snow gear, we bring everything that we need, and you carry it down or get it down there. And we used everything. So we were prepared. So there wasn't any, we weren't nervous about anything because we were prepared. We had done our homework. So it gives you a sense of a little bit of, I'm not going to say confidence, but just you're not nervous about it because you're prepared.
Now, is all that preparation and all that advice in the book too? I'm just curious.
Yes, it is. It is in the book. We kind of go through it, not in a lot of detail, but enough from a kid's perspective, from their view. And then in the very back of the book, there's a lot more detail, probably oriented a little bit probably towards adults or whatever. But from the kid's perspective, all that information is in the book. So we had to look at it from the eyes of a kid, not from an adult.
There's little points in the book where Alice makes a checklist, which is very much things that we would do. Or there's a little point where they go shopping for shoes and Alice has to choose comfort over fashion, which is what I feel was drilled into me as a kid when we were choosing hiking shoes. And I'd always want the one pair, and my parents don't look at the looks, choose what's comfiest. You have to hike all day in these. And so a lot of the little aspects are little things from my own childhood, which are fun to throw in. There's a point where we had to do a little junior ranger pledge at the bottom and promise to eat our broccoli. So that was from my childhood. And we tried to make it as realistic as possible so parents could literally just copy and paste this and add their own family into it.
Yeah, there is even a section in there where the kids, the parents are taking them out and exposing them to just different settings, and they have to kind of get practice, just get comfortable doing it, because you do this a lot of repetition over and over, and they're sort of tired. They don't like going out hiking anymore. Alice says, I want to play with my friends. So then they invite their friends along, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's really fun now. And this happened exactly with our kids. So it's all very realistic things that, kids go through in getting ready for something like this. I should probably mention too, we did, in preparing for this book, we are up at the Grand Canyon. When we started talking about doing the book, we would go up and we started looking at it from a different view, because we had to look at it from a kid's perspective, and we'd visit with some of the kids that were coming out of the canyon. We even went down in the canyon and chatted with a few of the kids. I call it focus group time, and just visited them and to get their perspective. And we built that into the story too. Just from their eyes, what they were thinking about the hike, what they were thinking about just the whole experience. And so it was pretty exciting, because it sort of reinforces what our experiences were, but also making sure that we had the kids' perspective in there.
Now, you talked about, Amy, your kids being kind of younger. Now, I think you said when we were talking, it might have been right before I pressed record, your kids are 5, 3, and 1, correct? And this book probably has an age range that it's most appropriate for. Can you tell me what's the age range that you think this book is most appropriate for?
So we geared this book to be between 4 and 10-year-olds. In Arizona, they do a study in 4th grade about the Grand Canyon. And so we visualized a lot of children reading this in 4th grade and being able to learn that in school, and hopefully inspiring them to go visit this as they're learning that in their 4th grade academics. But my children, my son in particular, loves this book. He's 3, and he wants to read it over and over and over. And he's so proud that he's the little boy in it. He's always like, that's me, that's me. And so it can hold his attention. And I think just as an adult reading it, I get a lot of inspiration reading other children's books about how I can better parent, or we learn so many little activities and games from reading other books. So hopefully it can be a learning tool for parents as well about how they can plan their own trip.
Absolutely. And Pam, what age were those focus group kids that you talked to? Were they also the 4 to 10-year-olds?
Actually, yes, we actually targeted it since we knew that was the age group. It's an illustrated book, I should probably add. And so we were targeting that group. So that's the kids we went up and chatted with. We got permission from their parents and then chatted with them.
Awesome. Great idea. Now, Amy, I know that you have picked a selection out of the book to read. Would you mind sharing that with us now?
Yes, I would love to. So in the book, Alice and Jack, they work their way down to Phantom Ranch, which is a little cabin there at the bottom. And so I'm going to start there. It says, Alice, why don't you lead the way to Phantom Ranch? Dad suggested. I paid careful attention and didn't miss any of the signs. I liked being the leader. The ice-cold lemonade from the Phantom Ranch canteen was the best. Over the next 2 days, Jack and I explored all around. We also worked at completing the activities to become a Phantom Rattler Junior Ranger. Only kids who hike or ride a mule to Phantom Ranch can earn this special patch, the ranger told us. Jack and I pledged to teach others what we learned and to help preserve and protect the park for future generations. I also had to promise to eat my broccoli. So that's a little tidbit of it. And it's so fun because you can go down and the kids can actually earn a patch, which is so neat.
So in the book, the characters and the family are camping. However, when we go down, we've done it both, camp or stay in the cabins down there. You can do both.
Thank you for sharing a little bit of the book, and thank you for sharing your personal experience. That's really cool to hear about what you have actually done, because the only part of the Grand Canyon that I have seen is when I flew in a helicopter from Las Vegas to the Grand Canyon and sat down at various places. It was kind of like an abbreviated trip. I didn't really hike down or anything, so I don't even know what's there. This is cool for me to hear about. Like you were saying earlier, even when your kids are really the target of the book, we as parents learn things too, and that's cool.
Well, I'll just tell you a couple of really kind of special things that we saw this last trip that we were down a few months ago is the California condors soaring around. Those are huge birds, like 9-foot wingspan.
Wow.
You know, that was pretty impressive. And the little 1-year-old, she was the expert mountain goat spotter. You know, she for some reason, she just saw movement and she would always let us know where the mountain goats were, which is really cute. The kids have a really good time. There's so much down there that you don't even realize until you get down deep into the canyon, you know, what is going on with nature. So
very cool. This makes me want to go hike the Grand Canyon. Thanks, guys.
It's a good place to go.
I bet it is. Like I said, I only saw it kind of from wherever the helicopter dropped me. But anyways, this is just a different perspective, and I appreciate you sharing yours with me. That's very cool. We talked earlier about this being kind of like a preparation story to prepare somebody for going to the Grand Canyon, especially a child, or maybe even parents, and thinking about checklists and stuff. But I want to ask you, what's the number one reason that anyone should read this book?
I think the main reason we wrote this book is to help families go on family vacations together and to help them spend time together, even if that little trip is camping in the backyard. That there's so many ways to spend time as a family. And for our family, we found it to be highly effective and enjoyable to be outside. We love being able to go on hikes and go on walks, even just around the block, and to be able to spend that quality time together. And just in a mental health aspect, there are endless studies that show how good it is for you to be outside and to get fresh air and to be able to exercise. And when you pair that up with fun conversation and talking about positivity, I think that it has been a very positive thing in our lives to spend time as a family and to do it outdoors.
So I think that and adding to what Amy just said, when I grew up, you know, we would be out and do a lot of outdoor hiking and being out there appreciating nature, and always feel energized and just happy when you come back. And I didn't know until I became adult, actually probably till kind of recently, that being in nature, there's actually studies that show that this has to do with wellness and just being out in nature and enjoying it and happiness. And so I think giving families this gift of being able to help them prepare and learn to appreciate the outdoors is really really a major goal of this.
Well said. My next question was going to be, what do you want them to do with the information? But it sounds like you want people to get outside and enjoy the outdoors, right?
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. That's a great message, because there are a lot of people that spend time inside with the video games and the social media and the TV and the snacks and all that. But anyways, I love your encouragement and positivity towards the outdoors.
Thank you. And in our book, we tell you that we think that food tastes better when you're out on hikes. So a peanut butter and jelly sandwich out on a 5-mile hike, it tastes a lot better than at home.
It is true. And the kids say that on their own, unprompted.
Isn't that interesting? And I think with the excerpt that you chose, Amy, you were saying that Jack said that the lemonade at the Phantom Ranch never tasted so good, right?
Yes, it is the best lemonade when you get down there after a long hike.
I bet. Well, as we start to wrap this up, is there anything else you'd like to share about your book?
You can get it online at Amazon and any of the Barnes and Noble, any of the stores. It's available online. We are working right now on a paperback version that'll be out soon. And we're real excited that it will be carried at the national parks, at the Grand Canyon at the National Park Service.
Oh, that's such an honor. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I think just even beyond anything about the book, my mom always had a dream to write a children's book, and she was lucky enough to include me. So I think it was fun to see on that level, just her making her little bucket list come true. So I hope anyone that has a little idea can go and try to work on that and cross off fun things that they've been dreaming about.
Well, I should probably add too, so Amy's just being too complimentary. She's the one that actually inspired. It was kind of like how this started was during COVID. We were together and we weren't doing the same activities. Well, let's get started on this now. That's how we started it. But this is just the beginning. We've outlined 2 more stories. So we'll be putzing away at these and working on them at our own pace, with all the other activities that we're doing. So it's actually a really fun hobby to do this.
Awesome. I think you're hooked.
We are.
Yes, it's been very. And we have the best illustrator, who is my childhood best friend from 5th grade. So it's been super fun for the 3 of us to work together, to have little weekly meetings and to just get quality time set aside to work on this together.
Yep.
What a neat way to stay in touch with one another. That's great. It sounds like my audience can buy your book at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And you said that it's hardback only at this time. There's no Kindle version and no paperback. Is that right?
Oh, there is an electronic version too on Amazon. And the paperback, that's what we're working on right now. So it'll be a few months till it's out.
Okay, hardback and the Kindle ebook, right?
Correct.
Got it. All right. And no audiobook, right?
No, but we were just talking about that though. We were thinking, all right, maybe we were trying to get the right age voice of the kid. We want it told by kids. So we were just talking about that. So maybe down the road.
Yeah, that would be cool, because, there's a lot of those in the libraries, and I could see you selling this like crazy to libraries too,
Oh, that would be cute.
Well, good luck with the sales, and congratulations on publishing your book. And thank you very much for being here on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. You too, take care.
Thanks so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Pam and Amy for being my guests here on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. If you are a pharmacist, a pharmacy student, technician, professor, etc., who's interested in writing a children's book, I hope this conversation has inspired you to get started. Let's wrap this up. Thank you for listening to episode 229 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to read the show notes. In the show notes, you will find a link to Alice and Jack Hike the Grand Canyon on Amazon.com. You'll also find a link to Dr. Pam Schweitzer on LinkedIn, a list of pharmacist authors in this series, my social media links, and more. If you know someone who would like this episode, please share it with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. I'll be back on Monday, July 10th with an interview with Dr. Corey Jenks. We'll be talking about his book, Permission to Care, Building a Healthcare Culture that Thrives in Chaos. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you on Monday.